From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Barris here live with you on a Thursday. It's good to have you, and I think you'll find today's conversation very interesting. And as always, you'll be invited to join in the discussion. What we're going to be focusing on, among other things, and maybe later in the show, I'll hit our guest up with some other topics because the truth is he's involved in so many things. But we're going to talk about the legalities, the legal challenges, what may come up with regard to the governor's executive order on mask mandates. We've been talking about that. The thing is, it's not a done deal across the board in terms of challenges, what school boards will do that have mandates in place, what the governor will do, what the attorney general will do here in the state in case there is some kind of challenge, or if the schools that have mask mandates in the districts do not comply. We'll get into all of that and your thoughts on it as well with attorney David Raybin. And he's not just on because he's any old attorney. It's, well, first of all, he's a friend of mine, but beyond that, you also have a background, one of, I think, expertise when it comes to the Tennessee Constitution, do you not? Give some folks a little background about how you have an expertise in that.
The Tennessee Constitution governs us just like the federal Constitution does. And when you can go to court, you can cite the United States Constitution or the Tennessee Constitution, which in many instances gives us greater rights and greater protections. So attorneys love to cite the Tennessee Constitution. I've litigated many provisions of it before, and it's a fascinating document.
All right. One reason we have you on is I suspect at some point here, this debate and controversy over masks and the mask mandate could end up heading into court. I mean, do you think that's a possibility? We know it's in place. It just came down Monday. So a lot of these legal departments are still scrutinizing, trying to decide what we're going to do with our schools, what the governor wants to do. What do you think?
I think it will inevitably go to court because of the posturing of all sides in this case. I think we will very shortly see a legal action filed in Chancery Court, either by the government or by the school board.
Okay, and by the government or the school board. So it could be either side going after the other. For instance, what does the Attorney General say about this? I mean, we know the governor said this. How will the Attorney General support what the governor wants to do, which is, you know, giving parents the option to opt out of mask mandates for their kids in schools that have them?
The Attorney General has already ruled in several previous decisions or opinions that the governor's orders have the force of law, just like the legislature enacts them, because they delegated this power to the governor, and that it's enforceable, and that a violation of the governor's order is a Class A misdemeanor. He could be put in jail for 11 months and 29 days. So he's already given an opinion on this issue, not the very narrow issue about local school boards opting out, but he said quite clearly that a local government may not act at cross purposes with a state law.
All right, but isn't it fair to say or take a look at what state law says and try to get an interpretation whether or not it actually gives the governor the power to regulate the way schools do business?
And that is exactly the kind of issue that we're going to see in the court. The way the statute is designed is to give the governor two powers. One, to issue orders that can quarantine certain parts of the city or the county, which is normal, or to require people to be to follow certain health laws, that kind of thing. It also gives him the power to suspend laws. For example, we all have to have our license plates renewed every year. It's a state law. It's a crime not to do that. But because we couldn't get to the station to get our licenses renewed because of the COVID, the governor said that law is no longer in effect. You cannot be prosecuted for having a suspended plate, which only made sense. So he suspended a law. That's the authority that the statute gave him to do so that we would not be violating the law driving our cars because we couldn't get our plates renewed because of the COVID. That's what that law is designed to do. So when you get into things of affirmative action, like requiring inoculations or requiring people to be quarantined, that's being proactive. The other side of the coin is being prohibitive, saying you can't do something. That is the problem here. Does the statute give the governor the authority to say you can't do this if it's health related? Local school board, you can't mandate masks for children. That is a different question.
It is, and you told me this when you first sat down, a bit unprecedented, isn't it? That typically you see it the other way around, where the government, at whatever level, is mandating some kind of protection because of a health concern, whether it's a smallpox vaccine or something like that. This is the other side of the coin. This is a government entity going the other way and frankly contradicting what health experts are saying and wanting to put that choice in the hands of parents.
Well, first of all, you always want to make sure that the parents have as much control as possible over the health and safety of their children. That is paramount. That's very important.
And that's what the governor says time and again. It's his belief that it's the parents that know best.
And that's true as it relates to individual decisions about our children. But here you're talking about children being together and potentially being infected by adults or other children and that sort of thing. So it's not limited to just one child situation. It deals with the health and safety of all children. There is a Supreme Court decision from 1905.
Okay.
And that's where most of these laws come from. And it was the case where a person objected to being given a smallpox vaccine, saying, I shouldn't be given a smallpox vaccine. And the Supreme Court of the United States said, look, you're not a law unto yourself. If the government requires us all to have smallpox vaccines, you can be arrested and prosecuted for not doing that, because if you don't, then you'll infect other people. But there's an interesting twist to that case that exempted children. There was a provision in there that said children are not governed by this law. And the Supreme Court said, well, children can be treated differently because they're children, their bodies are different, that sort of thing. That's why this thing is still an open question. And you're exactly right. This is the flip side, where traditionally the government says you will be quarantined, you will get shots, you will wear masks. But now they're saying local government, you can't enforce what most people believe to be a reasonable health-related requirement, or what? And that's the other question that we'll get into. What if the local school board refuses?
Okay, and we'll hit that in a moment. We have a call from Ann. We want to take some calls, let them weigh in as well. Ann, good morning. Go ahead. What's your thought, Ann?
Good morning. In the 70s, my family was transferred here to Tennessee, and at the time, stores could not be open on Sunday unless there was a pharmaceutical aspect, like a pharmacy. And the store my father worked for, and his division, was not pharmaceutical. But the store said, you stay open, and I'll pay the fines for you being arrested because of the blue law. So the children and the mother were still in North Carolina, and occasionally when we called him on Sundays, she would have to say, I need to see if he was the one arrested today, and we would have to wait and find out. This situation reminds me of that. If Adrian Battle says we are going to enforce this mandate, is the principal that enforces it the one that has the charges lodged against them, or is it Adrian Battle? And I do not see our police department going and picking up anybody any more than I saw them arresting people on Broadway for not wearing a mask.
Okay, let's go there. Ann, thank you for that call. Adrian Battle, of course, Director of Schools here in Metro. We have already heard from the District Attorney, Glenn Funk, in the event that somehow, and maybe you can explain who it is that would be charged if it became criminally a case. He says he's not going to prosecute anyone that is charged or arrested for that.
Okay. And I think that was an excellent question that the caller had about who's going to be arrested and for what. The district attorney said that he's not going to prosecute any school board member or teacher for enforcing the local mandate, which is his prerogative, I suppose, under the Constitution, to enforce or not enforce laws. But that does not end the debate, because what I suspect will happen is the state attorney general will file an action in Chancery Court to enforce the law. And then if the school board refuses to obey a order of a court, if the court rules that way, let's assume, then the school board or whoever could be punished with criminal contempt and tossed into jail. And then the district attorney has no control over that. So you do have a separation of powers of criminal prosecution. The district attorney is not exclusive. Also, there's a provision that if the district attorney refuses to attend and prosecute a criminal case, the court could appoint a special prosecutor. But I think the most probable result will be that the state attorney general, who's already given an opinion about this, will file an action in Chancery Court saying, school board, you will comply with the governor's order. Then we'll see what the court rules. But the issues you mentioned before, couldn't the governor's order cover this? That is a closer question.
All right, well, we have to take a break. When we come back, certainly we'll take more phone calls, 737-7587. And then that's what we're going to get into, David. As I said, Metro Legal here in Davidson County is going to be getting with and meeting with the school board members this morning, kind of just to discuss where we go from here as they're trying to discover what options they may have. And we'll talk to David about what they may be moving forward, including the option, and we've seen this already happen in Texas, where one school district put masks as part of the dress code as a way to get away around the governor's mandate there. Would that work here? We'll take a break. More with David Raybin, attorney, right after this.